We will now analyze an instance that is focused on adults and children. If you are more familiar with them, you can also consider these to be scenarios taking place between a boss and their staff or owners with their dogs. With all due differences and analogies, let us look at these processes that cover a very ample spectrum of behavior. Imagine this scene. You are in a park and you see children playing. At a certain point, one child hurts another. The parent of the child stands up immediately and shouts at the child to stop. Focus your attention on the parent. How are they shouting? What features does their voice, posture, or face have? What underlying emotion do you perceive? Put this video on pause and take a few moments to imagine the scene in detail. Okay, hold that memory and we will come back to it later. If you want, you can describe it in the discussion part of this course. Now, let's try to imagine a slightly different scene. We are watching a meal between friends that have small children. One of the children says a very bad swear word. One of the parents tells him off. In this instance, consider, what do you think of their voice? What emotions is the parent feeling? What is the child really understanding? What is their posture? How do they move, or where are their areas of blockage and rigidity? This goes for both child and parent. Let us look a little broader afield. How are the parents of the other children reacting? Take a moment to dip into your imagination and memories of similar situations where you have been a main character or an observer. Try to imagine the looks, feelings, and the climate that is created. Hit pause and take your time to explore all these elements. What did you imagine? Describe it in the discussion part of this lesson, so we can see in which direction your experiences and imagination move. Let us look at some possible options on different levels. The parent's posture is forward-leaning. The arms are raised, the face is red, and the voice volume much higher than necessary. It looks as though they are saying, "Please don't notice I'm worthless," highlighting that their needs and their behavior are not aligned as they would wish. We will come back to this process later. It's very important. Another option is the parent with their head hanging low, hands frozen by their sides, voice breaking in exasperation. Even their words start with, "I can't stand it, I can't stand you anymore." And then comes the telling off. This type of pattern makes us think that the focus is not so much on the child, but on the parent that feels exhausted. With the ancestral needs model at hand, we should ask ourselves what is making them feel exhausted and why. For example, is it a responsibility they feel inadequate towards, or the fact that they continually offer affection but feel inadequately or insufficiently reciprocated? Or is it something else entirely? In this other scenario, listening to the words spoken, we notice sentences like, "How many times do I have to tell you? You are an idiot. This sentence offers 2 points for analysis. The subject feels anger at their impotence, and the child is perceived and labeled as limited. These features create a vicious cycle that damages self-affirmation both in the child and in the adult, and their relationships, instead of becoming developmental, becomes limiting. We will come back to these delicate steps with a series of targeted interventions. In this instance, we notice a long, deep breath, more like the one required of a freediver preparing for an immersion than a parent. It's as though the priority is survival, and therefore the ancestral need for safety is entirely focused on the self above any other motivation or contingency. In yet another scenario, the reaction is intense, but it seems the person is not wholly convinced. They use stereotypical sentences, move against their will, put down the magazine they were reading with interest in annoyance, and are irritated at having been interrupted, as though having to sacrifice their need for freedom, for creation and production, is really annoying. In this other example, the person talks about themselves and their problems, instead of managing the situation. I'm not coming over to smack you because I have a bad backache this week. And they carry on talking about how the pain developed and how they plan to treat it. It seems they are talking to a public of other parents more than to their child, as they look around for a confirmation and are pleased when they see people feel sorry for their condition. Alternatively, as soon as they stop talking to the child, the parent goes back to intensely responding to a text message that may be work-related. In this instance, ancestral needs to create and produce may have become rigid, and other needs have become anesthetized instead. If the situation is really serious, it should, in fact, be difficult to concentrate on work and technical aspects just after an intense emotional stimulus. The person could be one that is proud of their efficiency, their performance, but hides a significant deficit in the background. First of all, they say, "I told your father to stop saying certain words at home," indicating that their first need is to find a scapegoat rather than dealing with the situation and taking on responsibility. They are talking to themselves to get self-confrontation. The emotion that transpires is that they almost enjoy being able to blame someone else. Another option still is to punish without understanding or providing educational value to what has happened, to recover a scrap of potency on the world. This indicates anger that is not directed towards the child, but towards someone else. Perhaps themselves or someone that needs to be identified.